Knicks Take Podcast.
Yeah, what it do? Mobbing with the crew, nothing new. I thought you knew, thought I was falling off. Blessings keep on falling through. Oh, don't panic, dog. Bro, a boo, I can't lose.
What's good, y'all? I am Ja So Focused.
I'm French, the bro host, and we would like to welcome you to
Knicks Take, the Knicks Take Podcast.
This is episode 55.
And this is a weekly podcast where we cover the most intriguing Knicks news of the week.
If you want to find us on our socials, you can check us out first on Twitter at the Knicks Take.
Then go to YouTube and search Knicks Take videos.
If you rather follow on Instagram, you'll be able to find us there at the Knicks Take.
Last, you can check us out Facebook at Knicks Take Media, or you can find us on the website knickstake.com. Now, French, how are you, my good brother?
I've been doing good, maintaining. I'm so excited for the season. Training camp has started. We got a nice little content day, media day. So that's been keeping me a little entertained throughout this end of the summer stretch that we're finally out of. We're finally getting that hoodie weather. You know I love the hoodie weather. Birthday coming up in a few weeks. Libra season. Come on now. What more could you ask for? We back, about to start recording more consistently. The season about to jump off next week. So I'm doing amazing. How you doing, brother?
I forgot it. Your birthday's coming up. I got to get you something.
Come on now.
It's all right. Yeah, there's some things going on here and there, some not so great things going on in life, but all I can do is just put that behind me and move on to bigger and better things, do more, try to focus more on this, just stay on top of everything that I can, and hopefully everything works itself out. You know, I'm healthy, kids are healthy, you're healthy, mom's healthy.
All you could ask for.
All I can really ask for. So let's get right into some Knick topics. Last episode of the Knicks Take podcast, we discussed RJ Barrett signing a 4-year contract extension. That contract extension with incentives is going to make him about $120 million, but without
highest paid player on the team.
Yes, he will. Even without the incentives, he will be making $107 million, $106, somewhere around that. He'll be making $1 million more than Julius Randle without incentives for the both of them, which means that if anybody wants to really make the claim that they're the guy on this team, RJ Barrett has the best claim. Donovan Mitchell traded not to the New York Knicks, but the Cleveland Cavaliers was also discussed in this last episode of the Knicks Take podcast. We kind of went into the ins and outs, whether the Knicks actually had a shot, whether there was some hurt feelings involved in regards to why the Knicks couldn't acquire Donovan Mitchell, whose fault it was that the Knicks didn't. We went into a lot of different things about that. We also discussed what the Knicks' future looks like with all of the moves that were made, and with the absence of Donovan Mitchell, with the absence of some of the failed moves and some of the successful moves in the offseason, what the Knicks' future may look like moving into the regular season. And that's what we discussed last time. French, let's talk about what has happened since then.
It's been a little minute. Before training camp got to start, there was a little bit of Knicks news. The Knicks signed a couple players, including Daquan Jeffries, Ryan Arcidiacono, Svi Mikhailuk, Jalen Harris, and we're not probably going to see much of these guys. A lot of them are going to be mostly end of the bench rotation. If we got a bunch of injuries, they might get some burn, but I like Svi Mikhailuk. I know I'm not saying his name right at all. He was on Toronto along with Jalen Harris, who was suspended for a year for something. I don't even remember. And we saw Daquan Jeffries in Summer League. He was a good shooter. Ryan Arcidiacono, he's Jalen Brunson's best friend, allegedly. He was on the team last year. So these are the guys that have guaranteed contracts. And then there were a bunch of guys that are definitely going to be down in the G League who got signed and then waived. And those guys are Quentin Rose, MJ Walker, who we saw both of those guys with the Westchester Knicks last year, along with Garrison Brooks. And then there's a new guy who I don't think we've seen last year. He's from Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken, Nuni Omat. I hope I'm saying his name right. He was also signed, and he's a South Sudanese player, and he went undrafted in 2018. So he's going to be on the Westchester Knicks this year. So I guess with them getting signed and waived, I know a lot of fans are like confused by that. This gives them like some kind of pay raise because of the fact that they got signed to the big team and then got waived to go to the G League. It's like that's their incentive to sign with the Knicks over other teams, because you don't really hear other teams doing stuff like that. And the Knicks have been doing this for like several years now. But other than the signings, Leon Rose spoke with Alan Hahn on a conversation with Leon Rose for MSG the Friday or so before media day, basically just getting his media coverage for the year done with, because we ain't going to see Leon Rose again after this. So he wanted to sit down with Alan Hahn, get all the questions that people have for Leon Rose. He said, come sit down and ask anything. Alan Hahn did just that. He asked all the questions that media have been dying to ask Leon Rose about all summer. He asked about Donovan Mitchell trade. He asked about Cam Reddish requesting the trade allegedly. He asked about the role of Julius Randle this year coming into the season, how the young guys are going to get more minutes. So if you haven't seen it, definitely you want to go see it, even though Leon Rose didn't really say many things different than what we would expect. But that was a conversation. Alan Hahn asked all the questions that you would actually think to ask. He was asking if they're going to have any type of minute distribution, like are they going to have any input on the minutes? And he said Tom Thibodeau's going to be control of all of that. So, yeah, not much has changed since last season. The same message that Leon Rose gave to the fans, same message he gave through this conversation with Alan Hahn. So, only thing that happened since then was the content day. So you could dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, much like that conversation with Leon Rose, Knicks Content Day basically let us know that everything that was par for the course before is still par for the course. And Leon Rose had the opportunity to assuage a lot of fans' fears as far as what's going to happen with the young guys, assuage fears about solidifying a direction that is clear. And he didn't really do that. And Knicks Content Day, if you thought that Knicks Content Day was going to make things more clear, you probably should have just paid attention to Leon Rose's, conversation the 2 days or 3 days before, because nothing has changed. The Knicks streamed an hour-long media session with Knicks players on YouTube. Monica McNutt was the primary interviewer, with kid reporter Jaslyn Guerra handling secondary duties. Jaslyn Guerra, if I want to be Spanish. I don't feel anything particularly important was put out there, although I do feel that the quality wasn't really up to par, and that was a little surprising. I thought
it was choppy as hell. Congress was muted. Started late.
Julius Randle was talking, and you couldn't hear nothing. Like it was that's surprising coming from one of the biggest franchises in sports in terms of financially and making money and all of that stuff. There's really no excuse for that. Derrick Rose basically walked around all day shirtless, show off how fit he looked after losing weight during the summer, which I think is good, but my concern has never really been whether Derrick Rose is in shape or not. My concern has been you can't play him more than a certain amount of minutes, and you got to have players in front of him that are going to play enough so that you cannot play him over that certain amount of minutes. Kemba Walker couldn't be that guy. Elfrid Payton couldn't be that guy. We got Jalen Brunson now, so I think we should expect for Derrick Rose to have a much healthier season this year than he did before. But let him flex off his new shape. Reporters were able to interview players separately from what was shown on the MSG feed on YouTube. Jalen Brunson apparently was not a fan of free agency. He felt that it was a little bit too public. He didn't like the way that everything played out, how there was a lot of things that went out there that weren't true. And he didn't really like it. He thought it was a little ugly. So hopefully that means that he's not really hoping to test free agency waters as a Knick. And hopefully that one situation that he's going to be like, yeah, no, I'm good on that. And
I hope so.
He's either going to just re-sign with the Knicks for whatever, or the Knicks trade him, or we tell him, yeah, we're not going to go with you. So, and then he can go somewhere else. Yeah. But I don't want him to be like, yeah, maybe I'll come back to the Knicks. Maybe hopefully, and it doesn't sound like that's what's going to happen, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he would have a reason to want to leave. Everything that he could want is here. Yeah.
Julius Randle apparently blessed us with this quote.
Like you said, when it's good, it's easy to be a leader. When things aren't as good, when you're going through adversity, I think it's even more important. So I learned a lot. Like I said, I'm just excited. I feel great about our team, physically and mentally where we are as a team, and just ready to get the ball rolling.
Obviously, there are some things preceding that and after that, but very clearly, he's acknowledging that the way he behaved last year was not one of a leader, which is why I think that the Knicks offered to pay RJ Barrett $1 million more than him in his contract extension. Mm-hmm. And, he's not a leader. So
I'm not going to lie to you. Julius Randle's media day, content day, whatever it was, he bought a little time with me. I'm not gonna lie to you. If he's showing that he looked at himself in the mirror, I'm gonna talk about this a little bit later. Mm-hmm. It seemed like he looked at himself in the mirror and did everything he could to get the most out of himself this next year coming up. Mm-hmm. If Tibbs is there, Leon is there, all I'm telling him what he needs to do, and he's willing to change his game around that, I'm willing to give him an opportunity to actually prove us wrong. To prove everyone wrong that we want him gone. If he can show up and be a Draymond Green level kind of defender, which is a lot to ask, but he's not that far size-wise from Draymond, and he's playing under Thibodeau, who's one of the best defensive coaches in the NBA. We just need him to be a rock on defense, be solid consistently, and not dribble the ball out on offense, having a 15-second isolation possession, ending up with a brick, and then everyone's out the rhythm of the game, fast break on the other end, score. And now we're going to have to watch you try to create your own shot again. Like, we have Jalen Brunson here this year. He's going to be able to set the teammates up, and I'm hoping that we could see, like, in the first few preseason games, I feel like are going to tell a lot. Because there was a lot of information on this content day that all the players been together all summer. Mm-hmm. They've been working out together. The only player that hasn't really been in the gym was Evan Fournier, and that's literally because he's across the world and playing over there in the FIBA tournament. But all the young guys were in there. Obi said he was in there every day. Quake was in there every day for the most part, whenever he wasn't traveling or going to these little pro-am games in the summertime. So I'm really just excited to just see how this team looks together as a team and how Julius Randle could fit into that, because it doesn't make sense to trade him for nothing if he's showing that he's ready to be incorporated in this team and be a team player. He doesn't have to be the top dog. He could just be a leader just based off of his talent, because he's still one of the most talented players on the team. And if he can tap into what he was in the All NBA season, I don't think any Knicks fans are still going to want him traded if he's proven to do that consistently. So he's bought a little time with me. How you feel about Julius Randle?
I think you're wrong.
Why am I wrong?
Because if he goes back to that All NBA situation, I'm going to be thankful, and I'm still going to want them to trade him. And that's not to say, well, for equal value.
But that's not going to happen. That's what I'm saying. Because even if he does go back to All NBA level play, what other All NBA level player could we get in return? Not many teams are going to be convinced that he's going to be like this consistently. We're going to have to see Randle do this for a few seasons before we could get another All NBA level player in return for Julius Randle.
think here's the thing that I think that to do it once and to be able to call it a fluke is a lot easier than to do it twice and call it a fluke. I think that there will be a team out there with a disgruntled player who wants out, who's an All-NBA player, who would be willing to trade them for Julius Randle and additional assets. It's not going to be 1-for-1 trade because you have to hedge your bets, so to speak, in the case that it is a fluke.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, I do think that you can pull off a trade if he's able to show that he can do that again. Because then you could say, well, maybe last season was the fluke. Maybe it was the having the kid and all of that stuff. Maybe that's what caused him to not be able to be the type of guy that he is. He's able to recapture that magic. If he could recapture the magic once, he could recapture the magic twice. He could recapture the magic 3 times. But if he could never recapture the magic again, which is what people will say, that he could never recapture that magic, then why would I give up anything for him? With that being said, I don't think that that's a likely scenario. I don't think that if he gets back to All NBA, I don't think that the Knicks are going to want to all of a sudden now look to trade him, which is what they would need to do. They would need to look to trade him. And if he gets worse, then they're not going to trade him for anything good, which is also something that I don't think they want. I think that they don't want to do. I don't believe that they want Julius Randle off of this team unless they think they're getting fair value. The only outcome that I could see where he's getting traded is that he plays slightly better than he did last year, but not quite the All-NBA play that he did the year before. He's a positive contributor. He's right outside of the All-Star conversation, if not in the thick of it. And he's a decent defender. If he can get there and he can show to be a positive asset, that might be the best case scenario for me. But I am still all the way done with Julius Randle. I do think that it is possible that we'll never see last season Julius Randle again. But it goes beyond what he did last season. It goes beyond what he did 2 seasons ago before the miracle
Big 15
playoff team with Alfred Payton being called to come off the bench all season, but still leading us to the playoffs and all of these things. We need a better fit than Julius Randle. If RJ Barrett is our number 1 guy, which based on the contract extension, based on the fact that he was not traded for Donovan Mitchell, based on just how you look at the squad, RJ Barrett has to be the guy. All the fans love RJ Barrett. Leon Rose has to say that he loves RJ Barrett. He can't put him on the market now after not getting Donovan Mitchell. He has to make RJ Barrett the face of the franchise at this point. RJ Barrett and Randle don't really work the best together. We very nearly had 4/5 of a starting lineup with lefties, right? That's not necessarily a great thing.
I don't think it matters.
I don't know if it matters or not, but I don't know. But the fact that him and Randall kind of operate in the same spaces, they both like the ball in their hands. They're going to have to play off each other. And to this point, I haven't seen them work off of each other to a significantly great degree.
Yeah, but we haven't seen them much together at all. We saw them in a Pro-Am game. What are you talking about?
RJ and Julius Randle.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking you're talking about Brunson and Randall.
No, RJ and Julius Randle don't go together. I think Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson can fit together. I think Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett can fit together. I'm not so sure about Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, and RJ Barrett fitting together. That's the thing. So I'm off of the Julius Randle train. I'm off of the Julius Randle train, and that doesn't mean that I'm rooting for him to fail. It doesn't mean anything like that. You should not do that, sir. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about like whether he's going to be better or worse or anything like that. I'm not rooting for him to be worse. I hope he is better because apparently he is going to be on this team day one. The team is operating like everybody who's currently in camp is going to be the same pieces who are going to be there on day one. I have to root for him to play well. I still think that the Knicks would be better served for him to be off the team. I think they would be better. I think they would be a better team with a player like Obi Toppin starting with that lineup than they would trying to figure out how the three-headed monster of Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, and RJ Barrett is going to work in that starting lineup.
Yeah.
So
we could go back and forth about this for a little while. I can't believe that I'm going to be a Julius Randle like defender going and starting the season, but it's cool. To start training camp outside of Julius Randle, Quentin Grimes was seen walking around with a boot. And the Knicks say Tibbs was saying that he had like a little ankle injury. He's day to day with left foot soreness. It's nothing crazy, but they're just trying to be take precautionary measures to make sure that he's good. And I don't know. I don't think that's a great sight to see him in a boot in the first day of practice, but it doesn't sound significant. So we're just gonna not pay much mind to that. The other news regarding Quentin Grimes that was kind of significant was Tibbs announced that Evan Fournier is the front runner to have the starting shooting guard job to start the season. And of course, you know that set Knicks Twitter into a frenzy, and everyone was thinking that Quentin Grimes, or at least quickly, would have the front row, the running. I can't talk. The front runner role for the starting job, but it didn't work out that way yet. He's a vet. Evan Fournier is a vet. He just finished doing a lot of good things overseas at the FIBA tournament. It was his role last year. I didn't really find much shocking about this because I know Tibbs is Tibbs. He's gonna have a veteran lose his job rather than just giving it to a second-year player because the fans really want to see him. Evan Fournier proved to be a 10-year vet. He want to see how this unit looks together before he just gives up on it. And I'm not saying that I'm cool with it. I think this is going to be a short-term thing. Grimes just has to prove that he's ready for the starting role position, the starting shooting guard position, and then once he proves that, that's when he'll get it. But yeah, Tibbs has always said you're gonna have to earn everything. You ain't gonna just. I didn't expect to start the year off with a second-year shooting guard, Quentin Grimes, just jumping into the lineup. But we will see that eventually. He just has to, prove himself a little more. Outside of that, Tom Thibodeau enraged Knicks Twitter again with comments on who should be. Sorry. Should I just start this whole shit over? Tom Thibodeau enrages Knicks Twitter. This is what happened when I take my glasses off, yo. I can't see shit. Sorry, y'all. He enraged Knicks Twitter talking about the Julius Randle Obi Toppin pairing, and he was saying how the pairing doesn't produce in meaningful minutes. They have an overall positive rating, but if you take away the games where there weren't blowouts, it didn't amount to many good possessions. There was a lot of. I remember the Raptors game last season in Toronto. I believe it was the first game we had in Toronto. They tried the pairing together, and it was back to back layups, and Tibbs was ready to give up on it already. I personally feel like you need to see the pairing together for more than a significant time period. At least, like, you got to have a good measure to gauge it. You know what I'm saying? You can't just have them out there for like 3 games and say it don't work. Only played 100 minutes together. It don't work. Like, you have to see them. These are 2 talented players. We spent the 8th overall pick on Obi Toppin, gave Julius Randle a huge contract, multi-year contract. These are 2 players that are going to be on this team unless a trade happens. So we have to figure something out, because 15 minutes of Obi Toppin a game is not going to work. He's shown that he's too good of a player to just get 15 minutes, barely see him on the court, and give all the power forward minutes to Julius Randle, because he hasn't shown that he deserves to be leading the NBA in minutes anymore. So that's a job for Tom Thibodeau to figure out. We have some backup big men on the roster. We signed Isaiah Hartenstein, and I don't really see the Obi Toppin Julius Randle pair playing much together because of that, and the fact that we have a young, promising center in Jericho Sims, who's already going to be 3rd string. So I feel like we can put this fantasy to bed until further notice. Speaking about Derrick Rose, you said he was walking around the practice facility with his shirt off, showing that he lost some weight. He said in his interview that he cut sugar from his diet, took his weight real serious this summer. Tom Thibodeau sent him an email telling him to cut down on his weight, and he took that challenge, and he's been training all off season. He says that he's fully healthy and he's just ready to go. So I feel like Derrick Rose, we missed him a lot last year. So he's going to definitely raise our win totals if he's relatively healthy this year. I think he's going to be a big part of the bench unit. I feel like we could have the best bench in the NBA, especially if Evan Fournier joins him on the bench somewhere around like 10 games into the season. I feel like we're going to have a long season. We're going to need that shooting off the bench, that offense off the bench, because we're not going to be able to match up with a lot of these starting 5s in the NBA. Hopefully we will, but I don't see it like when we play in Golden State. I don't see it when we play the elite of the elite, like Denver, Miami. We could probably match up well with, but it's not. Well, I don't feel like there's many teams that can blow us out just because of the fact that our bench has so much offense, regardless if Evan Fournier is on the bench or not. We have so much chemistry with this team. This team knows each other. Mm-hmm. They've been together all summer, so I feel like we can have a high win season this year and actually surprise a lot of people. I know this is a completely different take than what I had last episode. I'm saying we probably won't make the play-in, but the more I thought about it, the more I just heard from training camp, the more I just listened to the players talk about how they've been together all summer. They have a lot of chemistry together. RJ Barrett saying the Knicks are going to shock the world.
Especially, getting to taste what the playoffs is like, and then falling short there, and then to not end up where we wanted to last year. I think this year we're coming in even more experienced, even more hungry. We have a lot of guys that have something to prove. Myself included. I got everything to prove. So we're really coming with that mindset, and definitely think we're gonna shock the world.
I'm thinking back to last year when RJ was saying that he's on the verge of becoming special, and he's had multiple games last year where he definitely looked special. Mm-hmm. Think back to the New Orleans game.
And being ready, he played every game of his rookie season. He's been out there and he gets the triple to Barrett, who wants to go left if he can. Wide open Kemba. Jonas, by the way, is up to 23 and 7. And on 8 of 11. Deep one. And a 3. Boy, Barrett has increased his range.
He is really
and the
improved.
confidence factor. Barrett going to his strong side for a good look. He's been the key. You said it. He's up to 29. Look out.
That young man, hey, he has been special tonight.
It's his night.
He has been special. You give credit where credit is due.
He was out there, dropped 35 points, put the team on his back in the fourth quarter, closed them out. That Lakers game in L.A.
Ariza, former Knick draft pick, knocks that one down. Oh, nice spin move, and R.J. Barrett off to a Randall against Stanley Johnson. To Barrett. Barrett spins inside. Beautiful move, R.J. Barrett.
Last year, though, when he played his best basketball.
Oh, Barrett stops on a dime. Jumper is good. Soft touch. 1 point in the first half. 6 in the third quarter. Drives. Tough shot off the glass over David. Misses the second. Barrett the rebound. 5-point game. Barrett drives on Westbrook. Gets inside and throws it down.
We lost that game, but who forced overtime?
Fournier drives. Back out to Barrett. Barrett, three-pointer. Bang! R.J. Barrett ties the game.
R.J. Barrett did after scoring, like 8 points straight, getting a rebound, dunk on Anthony Davis. He showed a bunch that game, a whole variety to his bag. He was doing a lot of spin lay-ins, and he's just showing a lot. Throughout the end of the season, he was going on a huge run where he was just going 30 in the first half, 20 back-to-back games with like 20 points. He was just going crazy. He finished the game averaging 20 points a game. He's been consistently getting better every year. So I'm just really excited to see what he's going to do this year, because he says that he's been really working on his free throws. He's been working on his creating shots off the dribble. And he's been working on just all the stuff that,
Everything.
Yeah, everything. He's been working on just all the stuff that he really cost him last year. Like, if you think about it, that 47-point game really should have been a 50-point game because of all the missed free throws he had.
Yep.
And he wasn't even getting the ball in the third quarter much that game. So he really could have went for 60 if you really think about it.
Yep.
And I don't see that happening much this season, mainly because the guys who are on the team know what he's capable of. They've had experience with him for 3 years now, for the most part, outside of iHeart and Brunson. Everybody's here who's in the rotation has played together. I'm hoping that we get to see some Cam Reddish, because if we do get to see some Cam Reddish, that means that he's won the trust of Tibbs over. And Cam is a real special kind of skill set that we have on his team, only because he's on this team. No one else can do what he can do. So if he showed up to camp ready to play, he's been working hard all offseason, and he earned Tibbs' trust, we're going to see somebody out the rotation, but that means he's most likely going to be one of our best players as well. And that adds an entirely different dynamic to the team that no one has even really considered, just because Cam Reddish has been on the verge of being off the Knicks since the minute he got here. But, yeah, I'm going on the rant. Just tell me what your overall overview of what the Knicks is putting out there.
So the one thing that that was very clear, both Leon Rose, Knicks Content Day, Knicks Training Camp, overall theme is that the Knicks want to win. Not only do they want to win, they want to be in the playoffs. The youth movement is important, but the youth movement is secondary to that. Now, there's been a lot of discussion. There's been a lot of, anger, even me, right? When Tom Thibodeau came out and announced that Evan Fournier is the front runner for that 2 spot, I got a little triggered. I'm not going to lie. when he came out and was like, yeah, no, I think that the Julius Randle Obi Toppin thing doesn't work. I think that's been shown. It doesn't work. I once again felt a little, not as much as the Fournier thing, but I was still a little bit rankled, but I understood that a little bit more. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I've been reading a lot. And as I'm listening and as I'm reading, I have been able to talk myself into realizing that I'm upset because the Knicks are not being run by me, essentially, right? The way that I would run the Knicks and the way that it's being run are two different things. And I think once you realize that and you take a step back and you take a seat and you really analyze, that's not to say that the Leon Rose regime has done everything good or has, made all of the best decisions, but what they've done so far has been, above all else, consistent. From the moment they signed Tom Thibodeau to now, everything they have done has been in the interest of winning games. If you want to disagree with how Tom Thibodeau goes about winning games, I'm not going to hold you. He doesn't do the most that he can to win games. But what he does do in the name of attempting to win games is to avoid the most losses. Every decision that he makes is to avoid a loss. If you want to say those are the same thing, you can't really be mad at Tom Thibodeau. If you want to look at it and say, well, no, that's not exactly the same thing. I want a coach who is actually going to give us the most wins. Yeah, I can see why you're upset with Tom Thibodeau as a coach. And I could even say you should also be mad at Leon Rose because he's not viewing his coaching job in the same way. But if I'm Leon Rose and I'm looking for the coach who's doing everything possible that they believe is going to get my team wins, why would I fire him? Right? The one thing that's been stated over and over and over by Tom Thibodeau himself and by other people is nobody watches this team more than I do.
I believe him, though.
Nobody watches this team. Nobody studies this team more than I do. I agree, right? That, and from all accounts, he is obsessively poring over tapes and looking at tapes and watching games numerous times and watching, and I believe that. The one thing that I will say is other people have a better ability to watch this team and pour over tape. I could watch the Knicks game live, and while Tom Thibodeau is watching from the sideline and analyzing, I can rewind what I just saw, right? While he's coaching and he's trying to draw up the next play, I can rewatch pieces of the game as the game is still going live. And then I can skip ahead and I can do the same thing for every play. And then when he's talking to the players, I can go back and watch the game again while he's not watching film, right? So it is possible for somebody to watch more film on the Knicks than Tom Thibodeau, even not getting paid for it. And they could come up with a different reason for why Tom Thibodeau has made decisions that he come up with a different reason for why Julius Randle and Obi Toppin don't work, or why they haven't been successful. But they could come up with different reasons for why this starting lineup doesn't work, right? There is a kind of obsessive nature of Tom Thibodeau to believe that what he believes is right. And that's not necessarily the greatest thing to me. But once again, as Leon Rose, I'm watching what he does. The man is dedicated to his job. He's poring over the tape and all that stuff. All of this hyperbole that he does in the interviews doesn't really matter to me. I can't be mad at Leon Rose. I can't be mad at Tom Thibodeau. They're both doing their jobs the best way that they know how. And the object of this team, from both of them, the object is win games at any cost. Win games. Do your best to win those games. And if you believe that what you're doing is the best way to win games and it's still not giving you the desired amount of wins, then there's nothing else that you could do. Okay, we'll try to retool and we'll try to work at it next year. That's the way that this team has been operating. That's the way this team is going to operate. That's the way that this team is. And you can either accept it or you don't accept it and you got to leave it alone. But you can't continue to obsess over all of Tom Thibodeau's many faults and be upset and drive yourself into madness because you know what? Tom Thibodeau, he's got a winning record on this team. He's got a winning record. Until he doesn't have a winning record on this team, which probably will happen, right? He probably will get there because we have a really bad schedule to the beginning of the season. We got some bad stretches coming up.
Yeah, but we'll see how bad it is when we get there.
Right.
I feel like there's always injuries.
But until we get there, and it's like, Dad, you're really far below 500 as a collective in all your time as being here. You're not doing what we want you to do. You're not winning games. Until we get there, we just got to deal with it. It is what it is, right? If he starts off the season and the Knicks are winning with Evan Fournier at the 2, what are you going to say? What can you say? You can't say anything because the object of this team, the goal for this team, is to win games. And as long as we as Knicks fans realize that the team is doing what they think is the best that they can do to win games and to make the playoffs, as long as we put that in the forefront, we shouldn't say anything until it has become clear that that this team is not doing that anymore. Just like we did last season, when it looked like the Knicks had no chance in making the play-in. With that being said, I got over my Evan Fournier thing real quick. Are you okay with the Evan Fournier starting?
Are you asking like if it's a long-term thing or just how
in general?
Starting the year. I'm not mad at it because I know Evan Fournier wasn't the problem last year.
Right. If Evan Fournier was to start all season, right, would you have a problem with that?
If he's starting all season, that means that he's doing something that warrants him to start all season. So,
yep,
I wouldn't be mad at that. But if he's playing like how he was last year, no improvement, no consistency, and he's still starting, then yeah, I don't understand it at all.
Okay. And that's basically how I feel. I don't think Evan Fournier will start all year if getting into January, he's not shooting the way he had last season to end the season. Because that's basically what Tom Thibodeau said. We need shooting in the starting lineup, which I was like, all right, Tom, you acting like Quentin Grimes is not almost as good a shooter as Evan Fournier, but all right. Right.
But at the same time, Fournier broke the Knicks record for 3-point shooting. So he's earned the right to be the front runner.
If teams are
I don't understand people being outraged by hearing that news.
It's not outrageous. It's the fact that if you're going to say we need shooting and that's why Evan Fournier is starting, no, because Quentin Grimes is a damn good shooter. Right?
Not
so
as
if you
good
want
as
to say
Fournier, though.
Nobody. Okay, but that's
Fournier
not.
does step backs, all type of like he makes really tough shots.
I agree.
He just needs to be consistent.
I agree with you. But if it's just about shooting, they both check that box right there. They both check it. If you want to say fit, they both check that box, right? If you want to say defense, one of them doesn't check that box. And it's Evan Fournier. He doesn't check that box. He can't play defense as well as Quentin Grimes. And even though he's a much better shooter, right? Now you're okay. What is the reason why Evan Fournier starting. Because if a team has to choose between sagging off of Evan Fournier or sagging off of Quentin Grimes, they're going to sag off of Quentin Grimes. That's basically what it is. They would rather not sag off of either. Let me just be.
Yeah.
They would rather just stay on both of them. But if they have to make a choice, they need to stick to Evan Fournier. They can't let him. If they have to choose, all right, who's going to shoot this shot? Quentin Grimes. Let Quentin Grimes shoot the shot until he proves otherwise.
But I see them playing a lot together, though. Like, I don't see it being an either or. I definitely see them a lot of lineups with either Brunson or Quickly with Grimes and Fournier on the floor.
Well, speaking of Quickly, that was another concern, right? Remember last week we went over the lineups and we talked about who was starting and who's whatever?
Yeah.
And we said, well, if this team as constructed goes into the games, this is what the lineup's going to be. And let me say, if Evan Fournier is starting, how many minutes is Emmanuel Quickly getting? And if Emmanuel Quickly gets significant minutes, how many minutes is Quentin Grimes getting? And this is the thing. The Knicks are trying to win games. The starting lineup's going to be, unless Quentin Grimes or Emmanuel Quickly wrest that starting position from Evan Fournier, the starting lineup is going to be Jalen Brunson, Evan Fournier, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. Backing up Jalen Brunson is going to be Derrick Rose. Backing up Evan Fournier is going to be Emmanuel Quickly. Backing up RJ Barrett is going to be Quentin Grimes. Backing up Julius Randle is going to be Obi Toppin. And backing up Mitchell Robinson is going to be Isaiah Hartenstein. That's 10 players. How many times did Tom Thibodeau play 10 players in a game last season? It was less than the amount of times. It was much less than the amount of times he played 9 players. And a lot of these players are here from last year. So
better though. They all made improvements over the summer.
They all did, but we also got rid of Alec Burks, Kemba Walker, who didn't play, Nerlens Noel, who didn't play. And we added Jalen Brunson and Isaiah Hartenstein. Somebody that we like ain't going to get minutes.
At least to start the year.
At least to start the year. And people are like, oh, well, Derrick Rose is going to miss some time. I don't see it that way. I don't see Derrick Rose missing as much time as he did last season. Derrick Rose, as I said, lost so much time last year because Kemba Walker didn't. He couldn't fit the role that we asked him to play. Derrick Rose ended up having to take the bulk of the minutes, and as soon as he started taking the bulk of the minutes, his play started declining. He got hurt, and then he had to stop playing. If Kemba Walker was the guy that he was supposed to be, I feel like Derrick Rose would have played a lot more games. Now we have Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is not Kemba Walker. Jalen Brunson is not Elfrid Payton. Derrick Rose is going to play the amount of minutes that he was supposed to. And if he plays the amount of minutes that he's supposed to, he's not going to get hurt like that. We might be looking at a good 70 games of Derrick Rose this season.
I think that's a good ballpark.
And if I'm right, and this is me being hopeful, I'm not. If don't start at me talking about, oh, I thought you said Derrick Rose is going to play 7. No, this is me being hopeful. I think Derrick Rose is going to play 70 games, somewhere in that ballpark. 68 is going to be my official guess.
Yeah, I would lean towards like 60, 65.
Right? If he's playing that many games, he's ahead of Emmanuel Quickly. So once again, one of these two guys, Quickly, Quentin Grimes, they're not going to get minutes in the name of winning games. if the Knicks win games, we can't complain, except for the fact that they're now going to be not as good of an asset as they could be. But I digress. The most important thing for this team is winning games. Let's put that in. Let's keep that in perspective, and we'll just watch. If they start losing, then you're gonna hear nobody complaining more than me, because now you've made it clear you want to win games. You want to make the playoffs. If you're not in that hunt, I'm gonna be tearing everything down, because you bailed out of the draft. And I was okay with it because I said, you know what? They still have all of these assets. Maybe they make a trade, right? I would have loved to get Jaden Ivey, but maybe we could get somebody who's already a proven commodity. And then stars started dropping. Oh, this guy's available. Well, we didn't offer anything for them. This star's available. We didn't offer anything for him. Donovan Mitchell's actually available. You start putting things in for him. We didn't make the trade. Now we just stuck with the signings that we made, and we got rid of the players that we did, and we're going to run it back with mostly the same team: sans Alec Burks, Kemba Walker, Nerlens Noel, plus Jalen Brunson and Isaiah Hartenstein. If this is the grand plan and your object is to win games, you better win games. You better win games. You punted on Brunson, and you ostensibly punted on Jaden Ivey when you guys played all of these veterans as much as you did, which I didn't mind. But you punted on getting Jaden Ivey when you played these guys for as long as you did. You brought Julius Randle back to play an extra game or two once it looked like we might have been able to make the play-in. You made these decisions in the name of winning games. You can't have it both ways. So, other tidbits that happen, unless you have something to say. I know I went on for a very long rant there, French. You got anything that you want to clap back at me on for saying?
Not really clap back. I'm also just hoping that they review their decision-making tactics and the decisions that they've made over the last few years that have bit them in the ass, and they learn from it, because, yeah, exactly like you said, they was fiending for Jaden Ivey. And we could have had him if we just had a better draft pick. And we didn't have a better draft pick because we were so focused on playing Alec Burks to end the year as the starting point guard. We focused on giving Julius Randle 40 minutes a game rather than splitting the time with Obi Toppin. Jericho Sims deserves to play over Taj Gibson. And that's easy to say because we saw them be productive in the minutes that they did play, but behind the scenes, Tibbs gets to look at them every single day, and there's also a lot of development happening behind the scenes. Maybe they weren't ready to play 82 games consistently, but even still, they're going to be learning in that time period, and Taj Gibson is still there to give them pointers. Alec Burks is still there to give them pointers. They can learn from these guys to play that spent time in these roles that they're trying to develop under. So, yeah, that's a mistake. Even with them learning under those under these
veterans,
under this playing time, under these minutes that they getting, yeah, we would lose some games, but that's not going to hurt us because we ain't making the playoffs anyway. And even if we make the playoffs, where are we going to be going in the playoffs? So, yeah, we would have had a better chance at Jaden Ivey. But it just never happened. We signed Julius Randle to this multi-year extension when we didn't have to do that. And then he has the year that he has last year. Didn't have to do that, but we did it. It's just a lot of decisions that they just made that have come back to bite them. And I don't know, we haven't really heard them speak on any of that. They really just try to save face and just make it seem like they have everything taken care of. And I'm hoping that behind the scenes it's not like that. So that's the only takes I have in regard to that.
Yeah, I
want to move on.
Well, let me. all summer long, I was like, listen, it's fine, right? I was like, this is fine. This is not the end. This is not the end. This is not the end. But when you have 3 opportunities or more to make a move that you think is going to help you win games and you cannot do it for one reason or another, right? There was 2 or 3 reasons why we couldn't get Ivy, right? There was, I don't know how many reasons there are that we didn't get Donovan Mitchell, but at the end of the day, we didn't get him. Whether we were, maybe we didn't put in enough, maybe we took them for granted, whatever the reason, right? We didn't get him. And I'm trying to think of the other player that was available that the Knicks never even tried to get.
DeJounte Murray?
DeJounte Murray. We never even tried to get DeJounte Murray, but you had the opportunity. And there were other stars that we would not have gotten. Kevin Durant. We were never in the running for that. But this summer was the opportunity to make a home run swing, and we didn't make it. And we didn't make it. And yet we're still talking about wins and playoffs. At a certain point, your viewpoints are not aligning. You had 3 cracks at doing something that could have potentially gave you more wins. And the only reason that I could see that you didn't is because you thought that your youth was good enough to help you get more wins than what acquiring these assets would have taken. If you're still not playing the youth at the end of the year, you better have wins because you made a lot of hedging of your bets. And if you end up losing, I got a lot to say. Other tidbits that happened since the off season ended or began. Evan Fournier, we spoke about him earlier. He led the France team to the Eurobasket finals where they lost to Spain. Former Knick Willie Hernan Gomez earned MVP honors for the Spanish team. HBO is going to premiere a film based on former Knick Jeremy Lin called 38 in the Garden on October 11, 2022. Are you excited? Are you interested in watching that, French?
I mean, it's the day before my birthday, so I pretty much gotta watch it as soon as 12 o'clock hit. You know what I'm saying? Gotta do something on my birthday. I ain't making no plans to really do much.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie. Wait, before you go, Jeremy Lin's the reason I became a Knicks fan, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I gotta watch this. I watched the other Netflix documentary 40 times.
In case you're not familiar with Jeremy Lin was an Asian player, came from Harvard, I believe, was his college team. Undrafted. I think he was in his second year in the league. He was signed by the Knicks, not really expected to be any part of the rotation when the year started. The Knicks got devastated by injuries. They basically had no point guards. And everybody was like, yo, we got this guy. We signed him. Put him out there. Let's see what he can do. And finally, he was put out there. And
they were going to cut him.
It was one of the most historic moments in Knicks history to watch this kid who came from nowhere, and all of a sudden he's the biggest name in damn near the world. His name was as big as Kobe Bryant, LeBron James for that 1 month that he was leading the Knicks to wins that they were not expected to get. And 38 in the Garden is one of those games that Jeremy Lin just went off. Was that the Laker game, I believe, where he went off for 38 points?
Because Kobe off for 30. Was like, who the hell is Jeremy?
Jeremy Lin, yeah.
Who the hell is that?
And he went off for 38 and got the victory. And that was probably the climax, the high point of the entire, what came to be known as Linsanity era.
And that was after he hit game winner in Toronto, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, he had game winner in Toronto, and that was the first I saw of Jeremy Lin. Because you was telling me to start paying attention to the Knicks games around that time.
Yep.
I'm just like, Jeremy Lin. We're like, who is that? Why you want me to watch him? And then I wake up and I'm going to school one day and I see Jeremy Lin, hey, game win on Toronto. I'm like, oh, that was cold. Let me see what he do next game.
It's funny to think about. It's funny to think about now, but people were saying we got to trade Carmelo. We got to trade Carmelo and build around Jeremy Lin. Like that's how crazy that era was. That month or however many weeks that he was basically the Knicks leader. That team came together around what Jeremy Lin was doing on the court. I think one day we should probably have a conversation about that too. But 38 in the Garden.
Tony was the coach.
Yeah,
locked him.
That's something that I'm very interested in watching. There's a lot of books and there's other documentaries based on Jeremy Lin also. But I think this seems to be something that I want to really pay attention to, because it's going to be more than about that game. It's going to be about things leading up to his coming to the Knicks and the effect that the Linsanity era had on Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin doesn't seem too fond of the Linsanity era when he speaks about it now. But anyway, let's move on. 4 Knicks were named in ESPN's top 100. Mitchell Robinson was listed as the 98th best player in the league. Julius Randle, the 71st. Jalen Brunson, 67th. And RJ Barrett is at 63. How do you feel about these rankings?
Cloud chasing. They want outrage. They want to just piss people off. If Jalen Brunson was still on Dallas, you think he'd be a 67?
I think so. Jalen Brunson, listen, the reason why I think so is because everybody, for as long as I remember, was saying Jalen Brunson is only as good as he is because he plays with Luka Doncic. This was something that even now, the people who are still doubting Jalen Brunson are saying, I don't think he's going to be as good as he was. He was only as good as he was because he was playing next to Luka Doncic. And to me, it's like, if you're saying that, you have no clue as to what's going on, because his stats were better without Luka than they were with him. And he led that team when Luka Doncic was out for those first 3 or 4 games against the Jazz. He was busting Jazz ass without Luka Doncic. So, and I think that's what kind of showed that Jalen Brunson is actually a player, whether he's next to Luka or not. He's a guy that can actually lead your team to win.
And in moments throughout the regular season when Luka wasn't playing, he was still doing the same things. He's a quality point guard, one of the top 50 players in the NBA, if you ask me. And he was a part of leading the Dallas Mavericks to the Western Conference Finals. It was not just Luka, because Luka was there years before, pretty much playing at the same kind of level, and they didn't make it that far. Jalen Brunson definitely had his imprints on the team, and for him to be able to take over like he did in the first round against Utah without Luka there, and then still be productive when Luka comes back, it shows you just how versatile he is. And now that he has his own team where he doesn't have to take a backseat to a Luka Doncic level talented player, I feel like that's unlocking him to see what else he can do more consistently. He's a 50, 40, 90 player if you round up all his numbers for the most part. Like, he can be that level of player, and people just don't view him like that. So I feel like this season we're going to get a chance to see that, and the top 100 next year for ESPN ain't going to look like how it does this year. I can promise you that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's talk about what's going on around the Eastern Conference there, French.
Down in Boston, there's been a lot of news about Ime Udoka. He got suspended for at least 1 season for conduct detrimental to the team. I believe that that's going to be a significant loss in Boston. The assistant coach, Joe Mazzulla, will take over the head coaching duties for Boston Celtics this year, according to Woj. And even outside of that, Robert Williams out 6 to 8 weeks with a knee injury. Danilo Gallinari out for the season with an ACL injury. I do think Boston's going to take a step back this season. They traded for Malcolm Brogdon, but he has a long history of being injury prone. So he's starting the season off healthy. So we'll see just like what that means for the Celtics. But I don't know. My friend Jay, he's a big Tatum fan, and he feel like they're gonna win it all. I feel like they're gonna be a 7th seed most likely this year. But that's just me. What you think about Boston this year? You think they're gonna make it back to the finals?
I don't know about back to the finals, but I will say that Kevin Garnett, what he said is true. This is a time where you'll see who the real leaders are. They need to rally around. They need to rally in the toughest of times, rally in the darkest of times, so that they can get through it, so that they can make it to the finals again, so they can win that ring, right? They made it all the way to the finals only to lose. And now all of this stuff is happening with Ime Udoka, Danilo Gallinari coming to Boston and then immediately getting put out for the season with an injury. Robert Williams out with an injury. If you can't make it through this, the season's done, and it's going to be done early. With that being said, I think Jason Tatum is going to do what he has to do to keep this team focused. And I think that he's going to be the guy that they rally behind. And if that's the case, Boston's going to be a tough out. It doesn't matter about the coach. I think that's going to be hanging throughout the season, and they're going to, if they can play through it, they're going to be a tough out for any team. That's how I feel basically about Boston.
Another thing about Boston is Al Horford's getting another year older.
Yeah.
And he's a significant reason for why they went as far as he did last year. So that's why I don't have him replicating the success that they had last season.
I don't have them replicating it either. But if they're able to get wins in this situation, I think all of those other things ain't going. I think that's going to cause players who ain't that good to play much better than they have before. And that's something. That's things that you can't really calculate, right?
Yeah.
They should be worse. If they're not worse, if they're as good as they were last season, that means that players are going to be playing beyond what they've played before, because they've lost a lot. They lost their coach. They're losing some really good players. And some players are supposed to be older and getting worse. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I don't know. You want to move on to Brooklyn?
Brooklyn Nets get Joe Harris back, coming off of a knee injury, if I'm not mistaken. Ben Simmons ready to start the season, talking about he ready to shoot threes. He's fresh off of back surgery, ready to start the year. KD and Kyrie, they seem to, be buddy with the ownership group and GM and head coach again for now. I just feel like Brooklyn is like, they're one incident away from just erupting again. And right now is just the stage where everybody just got to play cool. Just like in LA, how they got Westbrook and Beverly acting like they best friends. I feel like it's the same type of situation. It's real awkward for Brooklyn, but that's just my perspective. Chicago's they going through their own thing with Lonzo Ball. He has a significant injury that should have him out for several months. DeMar DeRozan looked like he's going to be the lead guard for that team. So I see Chicago taking a significant step back. Well, maybe not significant, because Zach LaVine is still a star level player. But I don't really have much confidence in Chicago. I felt like they were overachievers last year for sure. DeRozan had an MVP caliber season last year. He's now another year older, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how old he is, but I know he's in his 30s. If I had to guess, he was Yeah, it says he's 33. Just turned 33. I don't know if he has another season like that in him. I'm not certain. I know he's a real great player, but I got to see it to believe it. I don't really think Chicago's going to be a top 5 team this year. They might be a playing team. Cleveland, they another team that has to come through a whole lot of chemistry issues. Not a whole lot of chemistry issues, but they're going to have to adjust to Donovan Mitchell, I feel like. But I don't know. It's just real. We got to see how these teams are going to play and how they're going to mesh together before we can really have any predictions. But I think Cleveland's going to be good, but it's going to take them a while to get their chemistry right. Brooklyn, who knows? Chicago, injuries. They're going to get they got Patrick Williams back this year, I believe. So they're going to have to get back into their groove together too. I think the Knicks are primed to make a huge jump in the standings this year. I don't see us missing the playoffs actually anymore. I'm convinced. Maybe it's the Knicks fan in me who's just hoping that we don't miss the playoffs again, but I don't know. I see all the foundation pieces that we need to be a good team. This team reminds me of that Clippers team that Doc Rivers got to the playoffs that one year because all those guys were hungry. They had veteran leadership, had a strong bench unit. They had talented young players. I feel like we can replicate the success that they had. And back then, there was a loaded Western Conference. Maybe this season, the Western Conference isn't going to be really jam-packed with elite teams like it normally is. But I feel like in the Eastern Conference, it's definitely going to be packed with a lot of competitive teams. And we can definitely show out to be among the top 7, 6, 7. I feel like we can make the playoffs. I feel like we can. If everyone's locked in, everyone's been together all summer, we don't have to go through no chemistry issues to start the year. Everyone's defending at a better level, it sounds like. Everyone's shooting more consistently. I know it's only just training camp. You're not supposed to read too much into what happens in the first week of training camp because every team is 0-0. Every team is motivated. Everyone's happy to be there. But I don't know. It just feels a lot different this year to me personally. What's your thoughts on that?
I think you're optimistic. I think what you mean to say is the Knicks are going to be in the play-in race. And they may be in the play-in. Playoffs is going to be very difficult. So since we last spoke, we had Bulls ahead of the Knicks. I think it's a very good chance that the Knicks could win more games than the Bulls, which has them firmly in the play-in race. Looking at the last year's standings, number 1, Heat. Number 2, Celtics. Number 3, Bucks. Number 4, 76ers. Number 5, Raptors. Number 6, Bulls. I think 1 or 2 of those teams, and I think you agree, probably not going to be in that top 6 this year. Yeah. Number 7, Nets. If they're healthy and they play most of the season together, I think KD, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons is going to take one of those top 6 spots. Atlanta Hawks. We'll see.
Wild card.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
Wild card.
We'll see. Hornets. Probably not. Right? So basically the Knicks are competing with the Bulls, Hawks, Cavs, and if you think one of the teams that were worse than the Knicks got significantly better,
Detroit.
That's exactly the team I was thinking of. They're going to be competing with those teams for 7th spot, 6th spot. because we have Heat, Celtics, Bucks, 76ers, that's for sure, still in that top 6. Nets in that top 6. There's one spot that it's up for grabs. I think the Cavaliers get it. Cavaliers played really well last season before injuries happened. Now they have Donovan Mitchell. I think they're in the mix, and I think they might be in the mix more than the Knicks are. Everything else is a crapshoot. Not even gonna lie.
I think Miami is bound to take a step back this year.
Why?
Kyle Lowry, another year older. You know how old he is? Let me look it up real quick because I know
he old.
He old.
He ain't that old, but he old.
36.
Yeah.
And he's going to turn 37 halfway through the year. So I don't see him having a full healthy season. I don't want to keep speaking on injuries when it comes to players, but we got to just be realistic. A lot of these guys who are like leading the NBA, like LeBron and these guys, they're all getting pretty old. It's bound to happen where the young guys are going to just replace them. So we are thinking of all these teams like with the top of the line talent like Brooklyn with KD and Kyrie. Like, yeah, they're all getting older. They're not going to be healthy, I don't think. Where was I just going with that? Damn. Whatever. Philly, I feel like Philly, Milwaukee, and another team are like guaranteed to be the top of the East. What were the teams that you just named that were top of the East? Philly, Milwaukee, Boston,
Milwaukee, Brooklyn. Sorry, that's the wrong one. I have Boston, Philly, Miami, Milwaukee. Did I say Milwaukee? Boston, Philly, Miami, Milwaukee. And then I said 2 were coming out, and then Brooklyn was going in. So that's 5.
I don't see Brooklyn going in. I see Boston dropping out of there, and I see Brooklyn staying down there. Miami has a potential to drop out of there. So I feel like I'm saying, because Jimmy Butler, he's not the most healthy player. Like, we see it every year. These players get injured. Yeah, there's a point in the season where Miami's going to be the number 1 team in the East, most likely. But then things happen. That's not going to stay the case. Same thing with Brooklyn. Same thing with Boston. Like, they starting off the year without Robert Williams. I feel like Robert Williams is a huge piece in their rotation. Yes. You ain't going to be able to recover that with 30 minutes from Al Horford. So you do have Grant Williams there. They're going to rely a lot on him to start the year, and I feel like he's a really good player, but
listen,
new coach is a lot to overcome to start the year with all these allegations. The Boston Celtics allegations, the only thing that stopped the Robert Sarver news, which is crazy to me, but it's like, whatever. I feel like it's a lot to overcome.
I don't want to go over these teams for too long because they're not the Knicks, but every team has problems, right? These teams all have a player or players that are currently better than anybody that the Knicks currently have. And that's big. At the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to.
But the bench, can you say the same about that?
No, we can't say the same about the bench, but the Knicks bench is pretty much the same as it was last year outside of Isaiah Hartenstein. And
I feel like we improved.
Well, you need to do more than improve your bench. You need to have a solid starting lineup. The players that are going to play the most minutes for your team are generally the starting lineup, and those are the players that need to carry you to victory.
Okay, let me stop you right there.
Go ahead.
Because when you review the starting lineup, last year we were starting Alec Burks at the 1. Now we have Jalen Brunson at the 1. Would you say that's a huge improvement?
That's a huge improvement.
I feel like our biggest issues for the last 4 or 5 years is that we have so much talent on this team. Not 4 or 5. I'm kind of dragging it. For the last several years, we've had a lot of talent on this team that just hasn't been utilized properly.
I agree.
Because we don't have a point guard.
Yeah.
I believe Jalen Brunson solves a lot of issues that we've been having. And we were the 4th seed 2 years ago when we had just a solid point guard at starting 5.
Yes.
That was during COVID. No fans. Julius Randle had a phenomenal year.
Even beyond that, though, French.
But wait, hold on. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
But I also believe outside of the fans not being in the arena, Elfrid Payton and Julius Randle had a lot of chemistry together, and that's also what led to his best year. So, with that being said, Jalen Brunson adds a lot more wins than we had last year, I feel like. I can't give you a specific number because the other teams, like you said, in the East are just so much better. We're going to be going to get like still sharp and still. I feel like RJ's going to have a big step this year to be an all-star. He's going to keep improving. We got to account for that. But all right, go ahead.
Well, since you already hinted at it, what's your prediction for the season?
I see us 48 wins.
It's a little bit higher than I would go. I have the Knicks at 43. Originally, I was going to say 41. I thought they were going to be 500, and I think you've brought up a lot of great points as far as the rest of the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up reasons why the Knicks got worse within themselves, but the biggest point that you failed to make, that you failed to address, when the Knicks were the 4th seed, that immediate off season, every team in the East, almost every team in the East got better. And some teams got so much significantly better that they leapfrogged the Knicks, whether the Knicks improved or not. Because the Knicks didn't make that significant addition after they went to their 4th seed. And then again, this past offseason, the East has still gotten better than it was the season before.
But
you have
not
to
every single team that was at the top of the East got better either.
Correct. But
the teams at the bottom of the East definitely got better. And it's not guaranteed that the teams at the bottom are definitely going to leapfrog the Knicks, like Detroit, for example, Orlando, for example, Indiana, Wizards. These are all teams that are most likely going to stay at the bottom of the East, in my opinion. Charlotte was ahead of the Knicks. They're going to be worse without Miles Bridges. Cleveland, Hawks, like all these other teams are going to be in the mix with the Knicks, but we won't see how the season's going to play out until we see how it plays out. I feel like between 4 and 7 is up for grabs for anybody at the in the mix that we talking about. Cleveland, Atlanta, Brooklyn, Bulls, Toronto, Miami. All of those teams are going to be in that race. And I feel like we match up pretty well with these teams because even if we don't match up with them star-wise in the starting 5, we beat Miami last year without no point guard, and we're going to be better this year. They haven't really improved much. And it's not like every game was like – I understand the last game that we beat them, it was the end of the year. Guys were probably not playing, but – we weren't getting blown out last year by these teams. And
no, we weren't.
We were matching up well with a lot of these top teams, and we weren't even at full strength with a solidified point guard and a backup big man. Now we got both of those things. Our backup big man is one of the most diverse players on the team. I don't know, is diverse the right word to use? He brings something to the table that the other centers don't bring. He's a passer. He's able to stretch the floor. We're going to be a much better team than last year, I feel like. Much, much better.
I think that the Knicks can be a much better team and can still be entrenched in that 7th, 8th play-in spot. And,
but you just have 48 wins and be a 7th seed.
Yeah, I agree. I looked at the standings from the year that the Knicks were the 4 seed. The Nets were one of the three teams that were better than them that season. The Knicks couldn't touch the Nets. The Knicks couldn't touch the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm blanking on the other team. Let me pull it up again.
Philly?
The 76ers. The Knicks couldn't touch those three teams at all. And the teams that they were in the same realm as were the Hawks, the Heat, and the Celtics. The Celtics, I felt underachieved that year, much like I think the Knicks overachieved that year. I think the Knicks, if that was a full season, I think the Knicks would have ended up with a worse seed than the Heat and the Celtics. Last year, the Knicks, those are the same teams. Knicks were worse than the Sixers, the Nets, the Bucks, the Heat, the Celtics. Are the Knicks in that realm of team? If the Knicks are in that realm of team, they can get into that top six, this is going to be the opportunity to show it. I'm just not as quick to be like, yeah, no, I think we could. Yeah, the Knicks should always compete with these better teams because the Knicks are coached by Tom Thibodeau. He's a coach who's not going to do we're going to come out and we're going to be flat 3, 4, 5 games in a row and be getting blown out by 30 points the way that we were under David Fizdale. Tom Thibodeau is going to get these guys to play. That's not what's in question. What's in question is he going to get as many wins as these elite teams so that the Knicks can be in that running as the 5 or 6 seed this year? I don't know. I could see maybe Brooklyn, and I hate to give Brooklyn any kind of kudos. I was surprised to see KD come back, Kyrie come back. Can I see injury issues causing the Brooklyn Nets to fall from, being a top 3 seed to being in that play-in race? Yeah, I guess. But even still, I don't think this Knicks team has anybody who's on the level of KD. They have nobody who's on the level of Kyrie. They have nobody. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think Ben Simmons kind of equates to what it is to being a top 2 or 3 player on the Knicks.
Right. But with that being said, right, last year when we played Brooklyn, they had KD and Kyrie all right. Did they have KD and Kyrie for every game? No, right? Because of the COVID vaccine thing. But the last game, they had KD and Kyrie. That last year's team was worse. Do you feel like the Nets improved much this year outside of that one trade with Utah where they picked up Royce O'Neal, I think his name is? Like, I don't feel like their bench matches up with us, and that's important because KD and Kyrie are not going to be able to play all the minutes of the game. If we're able to just stay in the same ballpark like we have been able to do with the starters, and our bench comes in and just tacks on 25 more points that their bench can't equal, like it's not going to be equivalent. Like I feel like we can beat a lot of these top teams based off of that.
I think we can beat a lot of these top teams too. Do I think that we're going to get anywhere close to the amount of wins that those teams can get? No, because I think we're going to lose to some teams that, maybe we shouldn't lose to as well. At the end of the day, we just got to see how they play in that first week. If Julius Randle comes out and he starts playing like an asshole again, and the 3 of Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Jalen Brunson can't figure out how to figure it out on the offensive end, Evan Fournier starts killing them on the defensive end, and Mitchell Robinson can't cover for him, and these are all things that the Knicks have to figure out in the first month or two. It's going to be hard times being a Knicks fan early. And that's what we have to kind of wait and see and figure out. I can see those things happening. I can see the Knicks struggling in the first half of the season, trying to figure out how to play well. And if they can't figure it out at the beginning of the season, I don't know if there's anything they can do in the latter half of the season to catch back up. And I think we should pretty much leave it there, French.
So with that being said, the first preseason game will be on TNT on October 4th against the Detroit Pistons. The next game will be on Friday night. I believe that's the 7th. against the Indiana Pacers. Both games will be taking place at Madison Square Garden. I've trying to resist like getting tickets to go to the game because so much just be going on at the games. I feel like I just be wanting to get courtside seats, but I don't want to pay courtside money, so I settle for like these other seats that I always got to sit behind people standing up every 5 minutes. They saying they gonna have like the bench players not able to stand up anymore, but I don't know. You think I should go to these preseason games? Get an up close look at the new team?
I wouldn't be mad at you if you did.
I think I want to go to that Detroit game. Them tickets are selling out quick though.
I think you should go. If you can go, I think you should.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Hopefully I can get some footage, get some takes that no one else knows about just because I'm sitting so close to the bench. But hey, Knicks need to hook us up with some tickets, man. We content creators out here now. Come on, man.
All right. So I think with that, you got predictions on the wins, by the way, on the Detroit and the.
I feel like predictions for preseason. All right, we going 2-0. 2-0. Detroit not ready, and Indiana not ready. Pack them up.
Okay.
I think we went we went undefeated last preseason, right?
I don't know if we were undefeated, but if we were not undefeated, we got really close. We might have been like 4-1 or something like that.
Randu hit a game winner against Washington last year.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana we beat. Yeah, I think we went undefeated.
I think that Indiana Pacers game is going to be a lot tougher than we are expecting it to be.
I don't see it.
And I think that the Pistons game is going to be about as difficult as we expect it to be.
Okay.
If we're going by the same rules as last season, I'm going to put 1-1. But I would agree with you. I think the Knicks would go 2-0 against these two specific teams.
I bet.
All right, French, you got anything you want to plug?
Man, I'm ready to unplug. It's Saturday, October 1st. Nothing to do today. Hopefully it's not raining all day, but I don't know. I'm fake tired. I'm fake tired.
I hear you. Have you been watching She-Hulk?
No, I've been watching the new Game of Thrones show.
I've been watching that too.
I've been watching the Jeffrey Dahmer shit. You watched the Jeffrey Dahmer?
No.
I'm not caught up in Game of Thrones either. I'm like 2 episodes away from the end of Dahmer. That shit is sick. But the actors did a great job in it, so they deserve kudos. But the shit that he was doing was just different.
Yeah, I've been watching
the
House
Game
of the Dragon. House of the Dragon. I might be. I don't know how far away from the end I am. I know when I get to the end, I'll probably be upset. But yeah, I wouldn't say this is as good as early 2 or 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, but it's definitely better than the last 2 or 3 seasons of Game of Thrones. So I would recommend.
What episode you got up to?
I don't want to spoil anything, but I don't know what number episode I'm at. So let's just leave it at that. We'll talk off air for those who haven't watched. But yeah, I highly recommend if you're a Game of Thrones fan, watch House of the Dragon and see how you feel.
Also, I got Jaya on the last episode of The Wire. You caught up yet?
Nope.
Come
don't have
on,
time,
man.
I got time.
You gotta just watch 1 episode a day. That's all.
I'll try and.
It's a lot to digest. It's a lot of information in every episode, but it gets nuts.
I'll try to get back into it maybe next week. I might have a little bit more free time then.
Yeah, you're gonna fuck with it.
With that said, please check us out on all streaming platforms. Check us out on our website, knickstake.com. Once again, thank you all for listening. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Thank you for listening to
The Knicks Take Podcast. The Knicks Take Podcast.
Bing bong.
boy's good.
Peace.
Buck 40. Peace.
That intro music was Broadway Boo by Gotti B, formerly known as Bugatti Blade. You can find us on Twitter at the Knicks Take. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you for listening.